here we are going to begin a restoration project. This particular set comes from a gentleman by the name of Dwayne, and it consisted of this 242 freight set and an extra circus flat, which is why it caught my eye. And fortunately, it was fairly close. I didn't have to go for more than about an hour's drive to meet Dwayne. And so now, after a little bit of time's gone by, I want to get started on this restoration project. As you can see, this guy's been out of commission for a few years, and my guess is it was running when it was put away, but by Dwayne's accounts and what I'm seeing here, my guess is it has been a very, very, very long time since this engine turned a wheel, and we've got a loose wire here, so it's going to be kind of difficult for me to even oh, okay, someone hooked it up as a fifth wire. Well, let's see if we can get something to happen. Well, you know what, this is so filthy. I'm going to go ahead and hook directly up to the axles. This thing has not been anywhere free of debris. Everything is a rusted mess, so I do not know if I'm going to be able to get enough good connection to get the engine to move, but we'll try it. See what happens here. Don't know if the reverse unit will respond either. No, we got nothing there. Okay. Well, seeing as this one has been in probably Indiana for all these years, just take a look at how rusted up this is. We've got screws that are rusted, hopefully not solid. The wheel covers on the sides of the side frames are nothing but rust. Even the wheels here are rust. Side gear is corroded with some rust, and okay, fortunately things turn, so that's good. And I don't think, other than dirt, I don't think, yeah, it doesn't look like there's any issues with the wheels. There's no castings that have disintegrated, which was something that I would be potentially concerned about. Well, so it begins a rusty restoration project, and we'll see what we find as we get into this. I have no doubt that it will burst into life at some point. The question is how long and how much will it take to get there. I do not know. So I've sped this part of the film up 800% just to help slow down agony. What you're seeing me do here is I first used some WD-40 to try to break loose the screws from the rusted entomb encrusted residence. Then I used pliers to help me gain some leverage on a screwdriver, and I used the locking pliers that helped give me leverage on these tiny screwdrivers. And what that does is it keeps me from stripping out the screw heads, because I can gently and evenly apply pressure until they break loose. Unfortunately, all four of them came out pretty easily. Next, as you've seen me do so many times, I put a steel brush assembly on the end of my Dremel tool and started to go after the rust on all sorts of bits and pieces of this tender. And as I've mentioned also in the past, if you ever use any sort of high-speed tool, you've got to have some sort of eye protection, and I would suggest body protection. Those little wire bristles fly off of these brushes, and they will impale you, they will stick in your clothing, and they will get tracked all over your house, where you'll
step on one and 3 hours later wonder why your foot has this weird feeling and take your sock off and find a metal sliver stuck up in your foot. I mean, it's happened to both my wife and I multiple occasions. So it's just I've tried some different types of high-speed tools in an effort to find a replacement for the steel brushes, just because they really are a nuisance. But as of yet, I haven't found a good option, so I continue to use them. So again, just a lot of cleanup, a lot of elbow grease, and it's what I find works to get the rust removed, get the metal shining again, and sometimes you strike out and you've got metal that's too badly damaged, but that was not the case here.
Liking what I'm seeing. Wow. So, one other thing that I found is either someone did replace the fingers, which I'm highly doubtful of, or this engine has had very, very little runtime. And I think probably the latter is the case. The reason I say that is because I asked Dwayne, as I do when I pick up engines from people that potentially received them as a child or whatnot. Ask him to tell me a little bit about what he remembered, and he really didn't have anything specific. It's my train. I remember it being at Christmas and so on and so forth. But in terms of kind of those memories that come from being fascinated or captivated by a steam engine that you get for Christmas as a kid, I didn't really hear that take on things, which is fine. I mean, when he would have been a child, this would have been the rage, and parents would have thought, probably your child wants one of these because it was everywhere. Grocery stores, gas stations, tire stores, auto parts stores, certainly hobby stores. They were trains were the thing, and so to have someone get a train as a child, have it all his life, it's probably close to 80 years old, but not really have a lot of memories with it, is not that uncommon. It didn't surprise me. So the interesting thing about that, though, is here we have an engine with probably extremely low runtime on it because it was got out at Christmas, probably ran around the Christmas tree some, but probably Dwayne did not spend a lot of time running it. Well, I've just completed cleaning up the rest of the metal grab irons from the tender, as well as the whistle and bell for the engine. And we'll be putting things back together starting here in a little bit. But I thought I would bring everybody back just to show something that I hadn't seen until I started cleaning this. And it's just what happens when you've got something that was made as a toy, was played with as a toy, and was probably in storage for 50 or 60 years. Most of its existence has been in storage, and as I removed layers and layers and layers of dust from different parts of this engine, I'm sure that's been its story. But initially, I was just super impressed with this tender because I do not have tenders that look this nice. Now I've done a tiny bit of touch up, again, just little tiny little nicks and scratches, very very minimal kinds of things that I've just touched up. And of course I've cleaned it, and the sheen that you see here will kind of dull down in the next couple days, and it'll just be a kind of a nice clean black again. But in the course of doing that, I noticed there's a little bit of a paint loss here in this corner, and as I held it up, I could see that this corner was a little sharper than this one, which told me there was some sort of an impact on that corner. And then I also noticed that this step, and hopefully you can see how the bottom step is kind of twisted and bent a little bit. And again, it's pretty minor. You know, it's not much, but something hit this from the bottom. It's probably a miracle that the step didn't snap off, because there's some material there, but not a lot. And then the third thing I saw was this corner here. Again, it's maybe not the easiest to see because it's black on black, but this corner here has kind of got a flat side to it, where this one is sharp. It's possible some of these imperfections are from the castings. When I look at this engine shell, for example, the joint in the casting along here, like all of the extra material was just kind of left on the shell, like it wasn't ever removed before they painted it. So you've got this very defined line of kind of bleed through where the material, the metal, kind of came through where the casting pieces went together. Again, you see this on flyer. It's not a big deal to me, but it's just kind of what they did, which is okay. I don't mind that, but there were imperfections in the casting, is my point. And the more I deal with cleanups on flyers, the more of this I noticed, But I think what happened, and this is part of the fun for me, is trying to figure out, what's the story here. So we have an impact here, we have an impact here, and we have an impact here. What's remarkable, though, is the paint wasn't really removed on this impact. The paint wasn't really removed on this impact, and there was a slight remove on that. So something happened, obviously, to this tender, and did it get dropped like this, and then maybe like this and that? Who knows? Because this corner is good. Who can say? But it's certainly part of the character, and it is definitely not perfect. It shows signs of being played with, which is fine, because again, that's what it was. That's what it was created for. These are toys. It's kind of crazy to think about these being toys when I look at the kinds of toys that are available now. Mostly very, very cheaply made plastic. Dare I use the word junk? I thought I'd just kind of go over installation of side gear on these little guys. Kind of interesting. First, you have to put your crosshead together. This is different than a lot of the flyers where you do that later, or can do it later. But even before that, you need to put your main linkage on, main drive rods on. It's important not to cross thread these nuts that go into the wheels, obviously. So I like to get them started with my fingers. Sometimes it's not very easy to do that. It's kind of surprising how many fasteners an engine this size has just on one side. This is a 3/16 nut driver. Then, because I've got fingerprints on it, I just like to go over things while they're easy to get to with a real quick wipe. Q-tip. Now, I like to put next just the tiniest amount of lithium grease. Just tiny amount on here before I put my next piece of linkage on. Then I put a little bit on top. So again, another thing that's a little bit different about this particular linkage, it's actually similar to the Northerns, is there's a screw that pulls up on the back side of the crosshead guide. There's a washer behind the screw. And then you want to have this linkage, which to me it always seems strange because it actually goes forward in front of the crosshead, and I think in reality it's supposed to go behind, but it is what it is. Now, the other thing that's pretty important to note is you've got two different types of screws that go in the linkage. The one without the flange goes into any space like this where you've got a piece of the shell that's on either side, so you don't have to worry. It's more of a pivot point. When you've got the little bit of a flange, that goes where there's obviously a need to hold the linkage onto the side of the engine. Okay, next I'm going to put the eccentric rod on. Again, I'm going to take my lithium grease and just make the tiniest amount. Just clean all this up, so it's kind of too bad, you know. It's like, just clean this mess up. Now I'm getting it greasy again. Now, with linkages, what you want is you want this part here to always be at the middle of the wheel. So it's going to be like here. If you put this, you know, up here or in some other configuration, maybe down here, like this, it's going to bind. Obviously, that would even come into contact with stuff along the track. So it needs to go here. Now what do? Well, I spin the armature like that, and that gets my wheels where they need to be, and then I can add my nut. You can use a 16th or a 1/4 inch socket here. The problem is the ones I have are too thick to fit beside the concentric 90, so I use a 1/4 inch open socket, or spanner if you're in other parts of the world. And you want to snug this down. Now you don't want to over tighten it because you can snap these heads off, and then you've got a whole new set of problems. But you definitely want to make it tight. Then after I get everything on, I want to just check, rotate the wheels. Okay, is there anything binding? Does it flow smoothly? Nothing, there's nothing hitting, you know, that got bent or didn't get straightened out while I was cleaning it. Again, just go over things again, wipe them down. Did polish all this, but I also have been touching everything, so it's gotten kind of fingered up, if you will. All right, so there we go. We've got our side gear assembled. Thought you might find that interesting. I'd like to introduce to you number 342 from 1952. After being gone through, cleaned, and refurbished, and there's been a little bit of rewiring for the 5th wire, but by and large, this has been a privilege and a joy. As you can see, it runs incredibly well. It's got a headlight there. It's got a backup light there. And it runs fantastically. Everything about this engine, with the exception of a little plug that I modified for the 5th wire so that can be removed without being hardwired. Everything else is completely original, and it runs fantastically. So I hope you enjoyed watching this kind of repair. And please, if you have American Flyer, they are worth salvaging because they are going to last a very long time.